This is going to be a part two to my video where I discussed how this Negro woman enabled dysfunction in this Negro. And in the previous video, I went down a historical timeline showing people an example of how these Negro women pretty much enabled dysfunction in these Negroes. This Negro was messed up pretty much primarily because of his single mother and the females around him. And these females pretty much enabled this dysfunction in this male by coddling him and supporting him in all of his chicanery and criminal activity. When it comes down to this black female, she is just as culpable in all of this as this Negro. She was the one pretty much who picked these guys, and she picked these guys because she saw their utility. She saw these dope dealers, these thugs, these gang members back in the late 80s as a way of getting things for herself. And she got primarily involved with these guys because she could get, again, those Air Jordan sneakers, those Reebok Freestyles, that leather jacket, that triple fat goose, and the gold chains and two-finger rings and bamboo earrings, and TVs, VCRs, and trips and evenings out at nightclubs and bars. And she saw that for herself during her high school days as a way of having social currency and a way of getting attention for herself. Because when she was involved with these dope boys, she was the queen bee. Everybody was paying attention to her. She was the most respected woman in the room. She was envied by the girls and lusted after by the guys. And that's what she wanted back when she was a teenager. However, by the time the 1990s ran around and Bill Clinton had signed the crime bill, many of these Negroes she was involved with were starting to get arrested and put in jail for long periods of time. And during that time, many of these Negro women pretty much were on their way to finishing high school, and some of them were teen mothers at that time. And the dope money was getting ready to be cut off because the first boyfriend that they had, the dope boy, was arrested and locked up on those federal drug charges, and he was going away for at least 25 to life. So she was stuck with a kid by this Negro, and in some cases, some of these guys some of them got less than life in prison, federal prison. Some of them actually got state sentences for other things because when it comes down to these Negro males, a lot of them were emotional, a lot of them were argumentative, and they would go to these clubs and spots and they would get drunk, or they'd see somebody talking to their girl, not understanding how treacherous a Negro female is, and then start saying, "That's my girl, that's my boo," and they would start fighting over this woman. And in some cases, somebody would get shot and killed, or somebody would wind up getting arrested on assault charges. And again, this guy is going to wind up locked up. So this female, in many cases, wound up without her first man. And because she loved that fast money, and because she loved all that social currency she was getting from dating these dope boys, she went out and got herself another dope boy. Some of them already had a kid by this Negro, by this first Negro, so they go out and get a second Negro, just like the first Negro. And then during this time, this guy again, because the crime bill has been enacted, and we have police officers now looking for these guys because the golden age of the 80s, where these guys were out committing crimes with impunity, is over with. He's getting locked up over little stuff. And what's happening now is she's having kids by these Negroes, and she's trying to go to school because she's seeing that the revenue stream for these Negroes is starting to wear down. She's seeing it starting to decline. And she's in college, because I was in college with quite a few of these single mothers from ex-dope boys and stuff. And this is what she was doing. She's in there, going to school. She's learning new things, learning new cultures, new experiences. She graduates school, and she gets herself a nice corporate job. And then what happens is this Negro, or these two Negroes, are out of school, out of jail, and out of prison. And guess where they go? Right back to her. And sadly, because these men now have felony convictions on their record, these Negro males cannot get any jobs except for little low-level jobs, and they have no real way of taking care of themselves. So they got to go back to her to be taken care of if they do not go back to the streets to get, again, more felony convictions. And during this time, her kids are growing up, and she's looking for child support and these type of things. And this is while she's trying to work this 9 to 5 corporate job. And when she's in this situation, she's looking at this Negro and saying to herself, why can't this man get himself right? What's wrong with him? Not understanding the dude was trifling back in the late 1980s when he had all the swag she so called wanted. When he had all those Air Jordan tennis shoes, he had on the starter jacket, he had on Timberland chuckas, and he had on the 2 finger rings and the gold chains, and he was selling crack cocaine to his own people. He was a loser then. Unfortunately, she was enamored by his swag. She was enamored by his style. And she sat there and enabled this Negro. She supported this Negro in many cases. She was the one cutting up his powder cocaine and helping him turn it into crack cocaine. She was the one cooking his crack cocaine. She was the one cutting up his bricks of weed and mixing it up with the other dope. She was the one doing this stuff. But but the whole thing is that she's going to sit there and say that he's trifling, but she was helping him be a trifling Negro. And now that this Negro is out of jail and out of prison and is now on her sofa yet again, she's like, why doesn't he get a job? Well, maybe if you had encouraged him to come to school every day instead of showing up once a week like the guys at Park West used to do back when I was in high school back in the late 80s, maybe this Negro might have been able to do something. But you encouraged him to go out there and push those rocks instead of cracking open one of those books. And because this Negro did that, now he has felony convictions on his record. He can't get employed. He can't get financial aid to go to college because once you get a felony conviction on your record, you can't get a Pell Grant. So this Negro is again sitting in her house now, or her mama's house, or his mama's house, I meant to say, and he's not doing anything. And she's sitting there saying, why can't this man get himself right? But you enabled his dysfunction. And now you want this man to be a father and a provider and a leader to the family, but you supported him when he was out here terrorizing his own community. And now that he has been broken down by the criminal justice system, you want to pretty much try to make him get himself right. And this is when your Negro female starts talking about this good man she wants to get. Because this is around the time Terry McMillan had published the book Waiting to Exhale and the movie Waiting to Exhale that came out. And many people watched that movie thinking that there was a shortage of good black men. There was never a shortage of good black men. What had happened was, again, many of these Negro females went out here with these dudes, enabled this dysfunction in them, and then, after seeing that this man now has felony convictions on his record and cannot do for her, now she wants the good brothers out of school, the same good brothers like myself, who she pretty much dogged out, ignored, disrespected, and said was not good enough for her. Now she wants to come and talk to us. And sadly, many of these guys fell for that bait because it was the age of Oprah Winfrey and all these TV shows, thinking that they could be the good men. No, you were never, there was nothing wrong with you. There was something wrong with her because she enabled all that dysfunction in these Negroes that she got involved with, and now she wants to go to the good brothers. And now that a couple of years have passed and a lot of guys have started waking up to this female, what she wants to do is that she knows that there is no shortage of good men. It's just that men will not get involved with her because, one, they do not want to get involved with her because, one, they know that she pretty much has a messed up life, and two, they don't want to deal with this sagging pants, overgrown child that she has fathered children with. So they're looking at that situation and saying to themselves, I have my education, I have my good job, this chick never was checking for me from day one. So why would I want to get involved with her now that she's got 2 kids by 2 or 3 of these different dysfunctional Negroes? These guys coming in and out of her life, and why would I want my life messed up for her? And that's what happens with this Negro female primarily. She's sitting there talking about she wants a good black man, that there's a shortage of good black men. And really, again, there was no shortage of good black men. Those good black men who were doing well in school, like myself, trying to build themselves up, they didn't want anything to do with them, again, back when they were 14, 15, and 16. But now here they are, 25, 26, and they've got 2 and 3 kids. They want to go look for a good black man. And now that they're in their 40s, we have these Negro females who have enabled this dysfunction in this Negro and see that he can't go anywhere, now talking about exploring their dating options. And that's the crazy part of it. They're sitting here, again, looking to monkey branch when you have more baggage than a Pullman porter on an Amtrak train can deal with. And we look at this Negro female who's enabled all this dysfunction in this Negro. She wants to really just get away from this Negro because she now sees she can do nothing with him. When she looks at him, she says to herself, nothing I can do with this Negro. He is stuck in a state of arrested development. He's still doing things like he did back in high school. He's still getting into fights with people over his boob. He's still getting mad over somebody stepping on his sneakers. He's still staring at a pair of sneakers in a Dr. J's or a Jimmy Jazz window and imagining himself buying them within 2 or 3 weeks whenever he gets a little bit of change out of her. He's still trying to go out here and put 22-inch rims and tires and a booming system in a car just like he did when he had his Jeep Cherokee back in the late 1980s. And he's sitting here still living the way he did when he was a teenager, and this female is sitting there at 35, 40, 45, sitting there saying to herself, you know, I wanted a man I could take to a business function like a Christmas party. I want a guy who can have an adult relationship. And she can't have an adult relationship with this Negro. She looks at this Negro in his sagging pants, his Timberland spice tans, and his baggy t-shirt, and says to herself, this man is more of a child than the children I am raising right now. My son and daughter are more mature than this Negro, and I cannot take him anywhere because if you try to go to a nice restaurant, again, he's got on a jean jacket and baggy jeans and a shirt that's 3 sizes too big with a tie on it, talking about he's wearing a suit. And you can't take this guy anywhere, even though you have become, the black female has become more educated and more cultured and knows how to conduct herself in this situation. You can't bring this man around her because he's embarrassing. She can't even bring him to a school meeting with open school night because he would embarrass her in that situation. And the whole irony of it is she was happy with this dude when he was like this back in 1987, 1988, 1999, 1990. And in that period, she was happy with that dude because he had the swag, he had the style. But sadly, this Negro has not matured, and the main reason why he has not matured is because she has enabled this dysfunction in this Negro from day one. She did not establish a standard with this Negro from day one. And because she did not establish a standard, this Negro never grew. He just remained in this state of arrested development because she thought it was fly. And this Negro, again, because he grew up in that single mother household, wanted to please and appease her. So what he did was he remained this overgrown child. And now she has no room for an overgrown child in her life. And now she's looking for a man. And I say this to the white guys out there. She is not going to do you guys any good. She's really insulting you when she says she's exploring her dating options. Because basically, she wants you to be like the good black man and be the Pullman porter or the garbage man who goes out and takes out her trash. What white guy really wants to take out a woman's trash after she's gone out here and had relationships with this Negro and going out here to go explore their dating options with them, where you have to deal with somebody else's kids, somebody else's nonsense, and somebody else's drama? If you wouldn't do it with your women, then why should you do it with women of other races? And when she comes to you and says she wants to explore her dating options, she's literally slapping white men in the face. She's slapping Hispanic men in the face. She's slapping Arab men in the face. And that's what she's doing when she says she's exploring her dating options. She wants you to not just be this white knight in shining armor. She wants you to be the garbage man who comes in to clean up the mess she made with this Negro. This is why I say, when you get involved with her, all you're going to do is wind up becoming just as dysfunctional as she is, because what happens is she cannot be a helpmeet to you. She cannot be a support to you. If she cannot take care of her own life with the man that she chose the first time or the second time or the third time, what makes you think that she's going to be able to take care of her life with with you. Because that's the thing that a lot of white guys need to really think about. She can't get it right with this Negro, but then she's going to get it right with you. That's why a lot of guys, especially these beta white males, find out the hard way how messed up these females are. Because this female is going to sit there and say, oh, the men were trifling, the men were no good. But who picked the trifling men? It was her. She picked these trifling dudes. And she picked them, again, because of their utility at the time. Now, these guys have run out of utility. They're no longer of any value. And now she wants to jump monkey branch to another dating pool and explore her so-called dating options. I say let her deal with the mess she made, because the mess she made is one she created by picking these dysfunctional Negroes, enabling dysfunction in them, and then now she's getting old in her old age, now looking for a new pool of simps to take advantage of. Any man with any sense of self-worth will look at that and say to himself, I don't want to get involved with this female, because when this female is out here, she's just going to talk about how trifling I am. I mean, look at what Halle Berry did to Gabriel Aubrey. That should be a shining example to many of you white guys out there of what's going to happen to you when you get involved with this Negro female. Because she enables dysfunction, because, again, she comes from a codependent environment, and she's seen codependent relationships in her life from the day she was born, from her mother, who got involved with the first group of Negroes, and now she's going to pass that culture of codependency on to the next generation of black men, and now she wants to go and bring it to white men. And the white men have to look at it and say to themselves, I don't want to be a part of that dysfunctional situation, and there are other options that are better off and more functional for him to get involved with rather than this. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.